and that would be coming from capital.
So the question is for the installation, the 5,300,
It's installation only. We actually have the radios in hand.
the 46K that we already have.
It's
So
co-
obviously, we can't have them and not have them installed.
That would be correct.
So that has to happen. I guess the only question is just why, I guess it was somehow an oversight that we didn't include that beforehand.
Yes, that's an administrative issue, yes.
Well, I don't know how we can escape it.
Yeah,
We need to do
it's
it.
got to be done.
It's a need.
Right.
Are there any further questions on that?
What do you need to move forward with that?
We will just have approval with that in 2 weeks. The next item is,
I'm sorry,
yes.
can you, do we really need to wait 2 weeks for that, or is that something that?
Yeah, we have to vote on it.
We do?
That's
Can we vote now?
vote on
I
it?
mean,
Can we
does
just
it move
vote
it
on that and
forward?
get it done? Like, it's not something that we have to debate.
Typically, you do a resolution with the supplemental appropriations, so.
Okay, so it's a resolution. It's
I mean,
not
you could
just-
authorize, if you wanted to vote to approve it and authorize Stephanie to make the payment, you could do that, and then we'll ratify it in
Okay.
the resolution in 2 weeks.
Okay.
You could do that.
I mean, when you're talking safety,
Right,
no,
yeah,
Right.
exactly
Makes
what.
sense.
Especially if we have the radios already.
Right.
Yeah, let me have it.
So if you want, you
So
can
our-
make a motion at this point to direct administration to pay
I'm gonna
that.
make a motion.
I'll second. I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried, Steph.
Thanks.
Second that.
Next item is in relation to the Montgo 2040 grant project. Again, this was a 2016 project. We required, in order to close out a project of that magnitude, we require maintenance bonds to be on file, and last project issues that needed to be closed out. So the bulk of the project was paid out in 2016 from capital. To close the project out at this date would cost $10,529.44. That again would be coming from capital. Again, asking permission for an appropriation to close out that Sutcliffe Park project.
what is it?
The amount?
No, the project,
Montgo 2040
Sutcliffe
Park
Park.
project. And that was the grant that we received.
Montco grant, right.
Montco grant.
That's just a matter of it rolling over, and that's why it had.
Right.
It's
coming out
rolling
for-
over, so
right.
now we need to,
Right.
the rest, all other expenses came out of 2016. The $10,529.44 is to close out that project.
Got it. Yep.
Stephanie, at the close of June, which is 6 months, can we see how much additional capital we've appropriated outside of
Of what was budgeted.
what was budgeted,
Yes.
just so we know where we're at?
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions on that item? The next item is a public services operational need. It is a Gas Boy PC software. So we have a gas pump down at the Public Works Garage on Elm Street. That gas pump is utilized to fuel all vehicles in the borough, and we also fuel Narberth Ambulance and the Sewer Authority. In order to accurately read and thus allocate and charge those entities and different departments, we have archaic software right now that is operating on a DOS-based system.
With a dot matrix printer?
That system has continued to crash,
Yeah, I wonder why.
which then, from an administrative standpoint, makes it impossible to accurately allocate expenses. So from a just basic 2017 perspective in terms of operating, I'm requesting the $10,564 for the software only. This was originally packaged as software plus a pump at a cost of approximately $25,000. In speaking with Mr. Sokolowski, we can get by with the current pump, which will be a 2018 expense request, capital expense request. But right now, we're asking for permission for the $10,564 for the software only.
So what's the condition of the pump?
Mr. Sokolowski, can you come up, please?
Well, if you think the software was funny, the pump, when it gets to be about 90 degrees, is unusable.
Oh, jeez.
So there's a problem with the vapor system inside the pump. So when we have a 90-degree day, we call the police department, the fire department, and tell them to come in early and gas up their vehicles, or come in after 6 o'clock to gas up their vehicles. We may be able to just try to put a bandage on it by maybe putting a small building over the top of it to prevent it from being in direct sunlight all day. That would get us through to 2018. It functions fine other than that. The software issue, though, is much bigger because if we get audited for anything, I can't tell Narberth Ambulance what they've appropriated for their gas. Can't tell. This month, the fire department went to zero, nothing, for no reason at all. For the first 3 months, it was Narberth Ambulance, the same thing. And in the DOS program, it's not like the Microsoft programs where they store it somewhere. It just disappears. You can't find it anywhere. Everything has to be downloaded into a small file, then to a spreadsheet, and then you read it off basically like an old dot matrix, line by line, to try to get
I have a
it
question.
allocated.
Yes,
So I picked up that we use gas for Narberth,
that's correct.
fire department, and the sewer.
Yes, correct.
Is that something that we bill out?
That's correct. We
To them.
invoice them.
Okay.
When we can, apparently.
We can't right
Right,
now.
that's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
Yes.
So, Ray, what is the tank worth?
I'm sorry, say it again.
What is the new tank worth to buy it?
The pump and the software
Right.
together was about $25,500. It was
You know,
about
it's-
another $15,000 for the pump itself.
So you're talking 40 or 25?
25.
25.
Oh,
25 total. But if the software became more important, basically because we're allowing other
They're not getting
entities to
paid.
use it, and we can't charge them back. You know,
Right.
Narberth, the sewer authority, and then we can't allocate those line items in the budget
Right.
when we lose the fire department for a month, or when we lose L&I for a month.
Right.
It just happens, and the guy who services it can't tell me why. It just happens.
So, what happens when we exceed 90 degrees? What happens?
The pump
Go
basically shuts
Oh.
off. It's like if you've ever been to a gas pump and it slows down to the point where it's almost worthless trying to get, that's how it starts, and then it completely shuts down.
Okay, so that's obviously an inconvenience and a concern, but is there another safety piece to it?
We're going to have another company come in and look at it because it may be part of a vapor system inside the pump. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't ask for the entire $25,000, because if we can fix that problem, the pump works otherwise. If we can fix the vapor issue and the shutdown issue, then maybe we can get through even past 2018.
Right.
But right now, everybody that we've had out to look at that says that they should just shrug their shoulders. They don't understand why it's the way.
Yeah, so what I would say is it's really important for us to find out if it could be repaired, and if not, we have to revisit it, in my opinion, because that sounds like a
We need to
concern.
replace the whole thing.
Yeah,
The same company that's doing the software also does the pump, and we'll bring somebody out to look at it. And I was going to have them. They're actually coming at the end of the week to look at a location for the software, because the new software won't have anything to do with the pump. It'll be away from the pump, so no matter what happens, one won't.
right.
We don't have to take the whole pump apart in order to deal with the software like we do now.
Right.
It is pretty. When I looked into it, it was the last year when that was purchased. It was the last year a DOS program was used for that.
And what year was that?
I think 99, 98.
Wow.
Then we got three prices on the pump?
No, I didn't get three prices on the pump. I didn't get any pricing
Or
on
not,
the pump.
yes.
I just removed the pump from a bid that they had gotten a year ago.
Okay.
That
Can
was
we-
a combination of
Can we
the
get
two.
three prices on the pump, just in the meantime?
Yeah,
Yep.
just in case. Okay.
Will other pumps be able to use the same software if you,
Yes,
if
the
you
software,
spend the
that's why we looked at software. It's, this whole system is actually mounted about 2.5 feet away from the pump.
Okay.
It doesn't have, it has there'll just be some conduit that'll run to the pump so that it gets all its readings from it. And obviously, the new electronic pumps, we even measure the amount of gas and fuel in the tanks with a stick. That's how we measure.
Jeez.
It is what it is.
Some gas stations still do that
Do
with
it.
the stick.
That's what
Yeah.
the whole gang of
Oh,
gas
yeah.
stations do.
I don't want to
still do
mention,
with
a couple,
Stick.
couple in town that do it.
The whole gang do it with a stick.
Thank you.
Those were all the questions I had, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
In conversations with Keystone, they're in the second amendment to the developer service agreement and the development agreement. There is, let me pull up my language. So I'm sorry. No, I'm just looking for it. Sorry. Okay. So in the Second Amendment to the Agreement of Sale and the Development Agreement, there was a stipulation that the developer fee would be paid to Keystone in the amount of $341,396. 2/3 of that amount has been paid. There is a balance that is due of $112,661, and that was due upon final completion of the contracted work in the Borough unit. That is an outstanding balance that needs to be addressed.
We owe that?
We owe that to Keystone.
Maybe we'll
Are there
have
still
that-
funds left in the capital building fund?
It's kind of drained because we're not taking any income in.
So I think what's important to also discuss is that while this payment is due to Keystone, we also have a soft cost negotiation that is almost finalized, that $75,000 would be coming into us from Keystone. So you are looking at really the money coming out, if you're thinking of that money coming in, is $36,858.46. It can't be, the difference can't be paid between the two, but keep in mind that $75,000 will most likely be coming in from Keystone from this soft cost negotiation, which is almost finalized. But we still owe the balance of $112,661. To answer your question about capital, yes, it would be coming from capital. There is no money specifically budgeted for the building project.
So
So it
there's
would
no
have to
money-
be an appropriation.
Okay. Mr. Savona?
Yes.
Is that dollars that we are legally bound to pay in a certain time period? Or are we able to delay payment until negotiations based on some existing delays that we're having currently with
So,
that vendor?
to answer the question, we're already overdue in making the payment. We have been holding it back. This agreement, the Second Amendment to the Development Agreement, was approved at the end of December, or in December of 2015. At the time, the actual amount of the development fee was in dispute, because Keystone had wanted to claim an additional percentage on change orders, and we took an opposite position. So the number that's in paragraph 2 is a negotiated number. The division of the money in two installments was also negotiated. The original developer services agreement had them being paid once the building broke ground and then once a substantial progress was completed. We changed that configuration and kept that $112,000 until the building was issued a certificate of occupancy. We've had a certificate of occupancy for some time now, but we've been sort of deliberately dragging our feet, part of which was because there were still issues with the roof that were common to the building that needed to be resolved. We had been advancing costs for experts related to the roof, and the number that Stephanie's talking about is a sort of a global reconciliation and repayment to the borough of Keystone's portion of those soft costs, so we're being 100% reimbursed for money we advanced. At this point, technically, we're out of contract on making that payment. So, I mean, if council wants to continue to hold it up, we could, but understand that legally, we are obliged and have been obliged for some time to make that payment.
And Keystone's satisfied everything, so they have there's nothing outstanding in the building that Keystone is still.
No, at this juncture, the only open item, as you discussed this evening, would be the lease out of the retail space in the front, which you had an update there. And there is an outstanding issue that Keystone is working on, but we haven't resolved yet. They, under their lease with the YMCA, they owe them they own signage on the exterior of the building. That's not one of our obligations. It's also not an obligation that they owe to us. They owe it to the YMCA. Stephanie's the one who's here, so she's the one who hears about it. So we've been working with Keystone to try to finalize that piece of it. But other than the leasing out of the front retail space, there's no other open issues that would involve the borough and Keystone.
And the expected date of the soft costs back to us?
I actually had a conversation with their attorney today. We've reached agreement on the number. He's going to send me a proposed letter agreement to memorialize that. He asked his associate to start working on it today, tomorrow, so I would hope to have it by the end of the week.
So I wouldn't want to pay the check until we have that in our hand, please.
I have no problem with that.
I do have one more question. We didn't budget that, did we?
We did not. That is why it's listed as a supplemental appropriation.
But we knew we had it, correct? We knew we owed that. Someone knew we owed that.
That would be correct.
So we could have other random things pop up like that,
I think
maybe?
that your administration has been very diligent in voicing and evaluating any operational needs that are outstanding on their end, and they've done a very good job at making me aware of that.
Thank you, Steph.
Welcome.
Next.
Do you need anything else from us?
No?
Okay.
The only thing I do need is clarification, so I am, you have made a motion to approve moving forward with the fire radio installation, which we will then ratify with a resolution in 2 weeks. Are you waiting on approving the other expenses until 2 weeks, or would you like to proceed in the same manner?
Well, the DOS, the
Gas
upgrade,
pump.
the gas
Gotta
pump,
do that.
Okay.
that has to be, so we'll wait for, to see if the one can be repaired, if that vapor piece, if there's an opportunity, but the system, the
Okay.
software system has to be. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
That's all they're
What might be
asking
easier
for.
for administration, if you're comfortable with it, you could make a motion to approve the requested supplemental appropriation subject to ratification at the regular meeting by resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll do that for the emergency fire radio installation, the final payout to close the Monco 2040 and the Gas Boy PC software, and we will hold off on the developer fee for 2 weeks to see if we have come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Okay. If you could just make
Make a
a
motion.
motion?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. The last thing under manager matters is we are revisiting the Park Mobile implementation. And I will be asking for authorization to advertise ordinance number 2017-06, traffic ordinance amendment. That traffic ordinance, there are other items that are in that ordinance that were discussed previously that pertain to Borough Hall mostly, in terms of angled parking around the building, timelines, time periods for parking in front of the building. There's handicap parking specifications, but these, to my knowledge, were previously discussed. I know internally they had meetings. I know that Paul, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Sokolowski, and Chief Orler have reviewed them. They've made their comments. They are good to go with those proposed changes. The only thing that was added for your review this evening is language pertaining to Park Mobile. And to be very specific about Park Mobile is that we would be adding to the ordinance a specification that Park Mobile would be an alternative form of payment in your currently metered parking areas. So from a police enforcement perspective, you'd be talking about dual enforcement, where you would have parking enforcement would still be checking the meters, but they also would be residents, visitors, businesses would have the ability to also utilize this online form of payment. The contract has been reviewed. We've had internal staff meetings to ensure that all departments are on board, and we've hashed out any concerns we may or may not have. Internally, we are at the point where we're ready to implement. However, in order to do so, the ordinance needs to go into effect so that we can enforce parking through Park Mobile. And this would be an initial rollout. There are other capabilities that Park Mobile can offer, such as permitting or looking at alternative areas to meter. However, from an administrative perspective, this is our recommendation. I don't know if Sergeant Connor has anything that he needs to add, or if you have any questions in terms of enforcement, or if you're good to go, then it would just be approving the ordinance in 2 weeks.
Actually, tonight we would need to authorize, you'd need to vote to authorize advertising it, and then we can advertise it for 2 weeks.
Sergeant Connor, I don't know if we answered this the last time.
Can you come to the podium? Thank you.
Good evening.
Do you anticipate the current staff being able to utilize the technology for Park Mobile? And do you believe that once this project is implemented, that we actually have the appropriate staffing levels to manage the project?
For your first question, we introduced the idea to the current staff. It's kind of difficult to give a hypothetical. We don't have a demonstration for them yet. They were eager and willing to go through the process of being educated and then implement it. We're also ensured through Park Mobile that they will take the necessary steps for those who aren't quite up to date on using that type of technology to go through repetitive steps and give them a chance to hone out whatever kind of hiccups they may have. Knowing the officers, I don't think it will be an issue, but we'll have to cross that bridge once we start the implementation. The second part of that question was, if you can remind me.
Once implemented throughout the borough, do we believe that the existing staffing ratio is appropriate for the full plan?
Yeah, I don't think there won't be any issue as far as having the effective workforce per shift out there. If we do find that there is, because we will get alerted to it, the supervisors on the street will be alerted. If we find out that hypothetically they're in the weeds and they can't enforce it, that the police department will be able to
Our patrolman would step in
go to
and
go and
assist.
handle any kind of needs that the parking.
So we'll
enforcement will
have
get to.
policies and procedure developed for that program.
We
that-
have to,
That we'll
yes.
be able to.
Right, and they already will supply us with samples, and we'll make sure that they fit the borough's interest and the police department's enforcement, and then it'll be activated from there.
Any more questions?
No?
So we'll be working with Park Mobile for any marketing and rollout to residents and signage, and there's a bunch of back end things that need to happen with this before this rolls out. But just making it clear that the initial rollout will be an additional acceptable form of payment in currently metered parking spaces. Okay? And the only other clarification I just want to make is in the ordinance that's in front of you on West 4th Avenue on the north side of Fayette and Forest, instead of 1 hour back and angled parking only, it should read 2 hour back and angle parking only. So in the ordinance that is advertised, it will have that correction. Okay? Thank
We
you.
need a motion to authorize that.
We need a motion to authorize advertising.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
You finished it? Department matters?
Moving into department matters for the, on the agenda is consider awarding the CDBG curb ramp project contract. If you remember in the last council cycle, this was on your agenda for approval. We received the bids. They were unfavorable bids. We went back out with revised specifications. That has occurred, and they will be potentially in front of you for consideration again on June 21st. I'm correct?
Well-
They are opening up on June 14th.
Okay.
Okay.
Next item is consider authorization to opt out of the county CDBG and home programs. The deadline for this is June 12th, so this again is something I'm going to be asking for authorization this evening.
Yes.
The authorization is a letter from administration to the county. You cannot be in the county program and the state program at the same time, so this is a matter of kind of a housekeeping item. Yeah. So if you could make if you are so inclined to make a motion to authorize.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
They got a
So
motion?
that's the better
Yes.
program
Right,
of this.
yes.
Okay.
And that is our community development officer's recommendation as well.
Okay.
Okay, I got a motion and second to opt out. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a couple legal matters there. Michael?
Yes, Mr. President, members of council. The first thing you'll be asked to look at for approval under my matters, under Chapter 11, Section 11-11-1 of the Conshohocken Borough Code, which is the section that establishes our real estate certification. That's the what we call the resale inspection. Council is required under that provision to, from time to time, formally adopt a set of criteria and a checklist that governs the matters that are inspected as a part of that program. In review, Mr. Hughes and I looked at this and recommended that we update our current checklist. It hasn't been done for some time. I'm not sure when the last time was, actually. So in order to make sure we're covering all of the items that are included within the scope of that inspection, and so as we comply with the code, it's a routine administrative matter. We're just going to ask you to approve resolution to ratify and adopt that checklist as required. The only other matter that I have, as council's aware and we discussed this evening, as you know, the 7 Tower Bridge project has gone into foreclosure with its primary creditor, R&J Holdings. They have a purchase money mortgage against the property, which is now in foreclosure. That property is substantially burdened by a number of other mortgages, including one from the County Redevelopment Authority, one from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and one from the Borough through our UDAG program. In order to protect the borough's interests in that foreclosure proceeding, my office is recommending that the borough engage outside counsel to work with us to intervene in the foreclosure action and to proceed with as our best efforts to try to avoid the foreclosure and to recover the borough's outstanding mortgage. So to that effect, we're just asking that you ratify the engagement of Obermeyer, Redmond, Maxwell, and Hippel to represent the borough in matters relating to the Seven Tower Bridge foreclosure in accordance with the May 24th, 2017 proposal submitted by Mr. Nassiter.
What do you need
You-
from us?
I just need a motion to ratify that engagement.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
I got a motion and second to ratify the agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
And I'll also just ask, so we have a motion to that effect. We did discuss this evening, and it's my recommendation and Mr. George's from Obermeyer that the Borough Council authorize the filing of a petition to intervene in the foreclosure action in order that we can become a party to that case. So in order that there's no dispute later whether that was authorized or not, I would just ask for a motion to authorize the filing of the petition to intervene.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
And that's all I have.
Now we have council members and mayor matter. Tina?
So I just wanted to update folks on the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. Monday evening, we had a meeting. It was a follow-up to our bus tour of the borough. On our bus tour, we took several council members out, as well as the Comprehensive Plan Task Force, and some members of the community. And we toured different areas of the borough, looking at how we have established different residential areas, looking at potential building sites for the future, just to give the group time to talk about what we see with each other. We spent a lot of time down by the train station and talked about how we could bring the train station more in line with the community to really promote the use of public transportation, specifically with some of the bigger projects that are coming up. And, we talked a lot about parking and cars and the idea of how do we promote public transportation. There is not a really easy way to get currently from the train tracks up to the lower end of town, so focusing a little bit on what we could do to develop a plan to work with folks on that. So I think that was a good discussion. The other thing that we talked about on Monday night was we pulled together our demographic analysis of the community. So we got a lot of good information between 2010 and 2015 to look at what our demographics looked like in 2010 and how things are changing. I don't know, Anita, if you want to talk about any of the aha moments that you had.
My aha moment was when we learned that the group between 25 and 34 was the biggest one here, which was a nice surprise. We have been losing residents, unfortunately, to death, but the younger ones are coming in and filling those spots up. We have a lot more families with lots of babies. We have lots of dogs. But overall, I was very surprised at the young side of the town. And it's really reassuring that we're that good.
Great. We had a 4% growth in population between 2010 and 2015, so that was a positive. The other thing that I thought was an aha for me was we are now at 53% family households, and 46% rental. So it looks like things are flipping back to home ownership again in the borough. So that was a positive.
That was a nice positive.
Does anyone have any questions? So we will have our next meeting in early July.
July 7th.
July 7th?
July 6th.
6th, I think
The
it is.
Thursday.
The Thursday.
After July 6th.
And at that point, we will look at some additional information that we talked about and start building some of the chapters of our story.
I'm sorry, one more time. July 6th?
Yes.
7th?
I'm sorry.
It's the Thursday.
It's the Thursday of the July
Yes.
4th week,
Yes.
so it is
July 6th.
Sixth.
July 5th is
Sixth.
a Wednesday.
It is July 6th.
Yes.
Correct.
Wednesdays,
Wednesdays.
which we never answered.
And that's my update.
Thank you.
We gotta discuss Fieschi traffic and PennDOT engagement.
We
Anita?
have talked it to death, basically, our traffic on Fayette Street. I would like to get council's okay to speak with a James Ritzman from PennDOT, who I met at the PSAB, and run some scenarios by him and see if it's even feasible for us to do any of them. And just, I want to hear his input and his recommendations as to how we can control our traffic and make the citizens safer for crossing the street. I know we've hit on a couple of different things. I've learned several things from doing webinars of how we can better enhance our crosswalks. But in order to do that, because it is a government highway, we have to get approval for anything we do. I would like to talk with him, just sit down and have a conversation with him and gather his thoughts on this and then bring them back to council.
Would you be doing that in town, or?
I don't know. I believe he's based in Harrisburg, so it may be a trip.
Might be beneficial, too.
Yes.
Anita?
Yes, sir.
Don't we still have a police officer that's reviewing traffic problems all the time?
It's not just the problems that we
What
have.
I'm
It's,
getting at is maybe you'd want to take him along with you.
ooh, thank you. That's not a bad idea.
Somebody specifically for that, or at least gave him that assignment years ago.
We do have one specialized officer, Officer Matthew Foster.
Okay.
He's our highway safety, and he does review all the accidents, and he does go to all the specialized courses. We have an alternate if he's not available, but he'll be available.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know what I can find out. I have to get with Mr. Ritzman first.
And he speaks fairly regularly with the PennDOT local offices,
Okay.
and
Is he-
maybe the trip to Harrisburg would help expedite some of the concerns.
Right.
So-
Because he's a head honcho.
So just feel free, I mean, we've discussed
Okay.
it before, just let me know, and I'll make sure that his staffing is available to accommodate it.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Who do I have next? Jane?
I wanted to talk to council and ask you to consider approving a Friends of Marywood Park Fund and to authorize Mr. Savona and his firm to set up a nonprofit foundation for the purpose of soliciting funds for the restoration of Marywood Park House, the revitalizing of the park, and the renovations at the community center. We will be celebrating the centennial of Marywood Park as a gift to the borough on July 4th, 2020. So I would like council to consider that for next 2 weeks for a motion. And do you have any questions about that, anyone, at this point?
Basically, just briefly, what Ms. Flanagan and I have talked about is because we're a municipal entity, we can certainly accept money in donations, but we can't give them the benefit of the tax deduction, which would come with a 501c3 designation, which can be done through a nonprofit. There are other municipalities who have chosen to set up a nonprofit fundraising arm where we would effectively incorporate a nonprofit, apply for a 501c3 designation. The purpose of the fund or the nonprofit would be to support the ongoing perpetual maintenance and development of that park. It's a public interest thing. It qualifies. And my suggestion, unless there's a strong objection, would be that we designate that the board members of that nonprofit ex officio be the members of Borough Council. That way, it's not an outside group. It wouldn't be another thing to have to hold meetings of, but it's something that you guys
would administer.
and your successors would always control on behalf of the borough, but it would be set up as a separate entity. So I think that's probably the best and the easiest vehicle to use in order to get where we need to go. And there is a great deal of fundraising that needs to be done. So having a 501c3 could be of some advantage.
Is that this, can we do the same thing where we can approve that and just ratify it and Because I don't know that we need to have any more of a discussion on
Unless
that.
people have discussion or thoughts.
I don't-
Yeah, if you're content, then you could
I didn't-
make the motion
Right,
to
I just
direct me
asked
to
if there
do
are any
that.
questions.
Yeah.
I don't, I think, just to,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I can't make the motion, somebody else has to.
I'll make the motion.
second it.
I got a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried,
We'll get to work on
When
that.
is the 100th, like what month, when is that, Mark?
2020.
We celebrated the accepting of the park on July 4th, 1920. So that's why it would be significant to have the centennial celebration on July 4th, 2020. It would be exactly 100 years
Okay.
that the borough, she passed away in 1918, but it took 2 years to probate her will.
Okay, okay. Well, it's wonderful that you're getting the jump start on it, because we need a lot of finances for that, but.
Yes.
but
It's going to be an ongoing 3 to 5 year project, we feel.
And that'll be a neat event, too.
It should be.
Good, thank you.
Anything?
And then the second thing I wanted to ask council was to consider approving not more than $2,000 to hire an intern archivist to begin documenting the important historical artifacts that are kept at Marywood Park House. We need someone trained with special skills to start sorting and cataloging. We have a rich collection, and some of it is in fragile condition, and we need to stabilize what we have and start to have a catalog, as most museums do, for what we own and what we can do to promote it to our public. So it's not budgeted. We did not realize we were going to take on this project last year, but if we could appropriate $2,000, I think that would help us secure an intern for the summer.
And I'm just clarifying that the appropriation is from the Marywood Park Fund that currently exists.
Right.
Okay.
So,
How many hours of work do we think that it will be? And do we think that that will cover a bulk of it or
No.
just a portion of it?
it's going to be a ongoing task. There's 3 floors of papers,
So one summer we.
documents.
Post-it
What, pardon? Yeah.
Post-it notes.
Right, and what we need to do is to get a handle on what is most fragile and needs to be preserved first, which are probably the paper things. This would just be the beginning.
Does the Historic Society currently have a program that is even started? Or
No.
so will this be an Excel spreadsheet? Is
It
there
would be
software that?
I'm sure there is software. We need to talk to the university. I have 2 contacts that I'm working with, but there are definitely software programs that would be used.
And it's not DOS.
And it's not us, no. And it would be ongoing. We're definitely looking for someone with at least a bachelor's degree that's working towards a master's.
So we're looking for someone to come in and evaluate and begin the
Yes.
process so that we can
And
identify.
possibly train some of us to continue with the work.
So the Historic Society is out there. They're always looking for volunteers.
Right, they are. Especially if you want to know about Conshohocken history, which is rich
That's
in
right.
detail between our sports and the industries and the community itself with the different groups of immigrants and church and civic organizations. There's a wealth of knowledge in that building, so,
And it's cataloged by Post-its at the moment.
yes.
If I may tag on to that, on election day in the 6th Ward, our polling place is Old Borough Hall. I did a quick inventory of a number of pictures that are still in there.
We need to get them.
Roughly about 10 pieces I feel should be transferred
Okay.
down to the Historical Society, with the exception of one. And that is a picture of the Battery C. And evidently, when the vets toured that building a couple months ago or weeks ago to take a look at it, that picture matches an embroidery of all the members that they have at their post.
Oh,
Picture, person by person,
Wow.
right along the board. They asked me the other day if I could ask council if in fact we could donate that to those guys. And take the other 9 down to the Historical Society. So I think that's probably a good home for it.
right.
How about them old police uniforms? They're still down there, aren't they?
How about just with the stipulation, if it ever closes, it goes back to the borough?
So we'll write something
Okay.
to that effect.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see why it couldn't go in the inventory and then the location.
We could
where-
loan it to
Where we
them.
can,
Yeah.
because that's one other thing that we could always do is loan
Right.
some of the stuff to.
And I know the Historic Society has lent things to the Colonial School District for different presentations that they've done, and they've also brought students to the Park House for presentations, so we'd like to do more of that in the future.
I'll take care of getting that stuff down to there. and then
That would be
we
great.
Pass that one piece along and create some piece of paperwork that maintains our ownership.
As long as you're talking about moving things, there's those statues that also are in the garden, in the corner that folks were asking
Yeah.
about.
That's part of
So
the
we
building.
need-
That's
We
part
need
of
to
the
figure out
building.
where we're gonna put that.
We need to take a look at those as well.
Yeah.
I'm not moving.
Why, you were done after moving from St. Cosmos
They're not
over?
statues as much as they are plaques.
Greg?
They're stand.
We might as well
plaques.
take the ball too.
There's a head.
Yeah, there's a head there.
You just moved it.
There's a, it's called a bust.
That's the one?
There's a
That's
bust
all,
there.
yes.
Jane,
Why can't we have two flagpoles?
Okay.
Oh, yes, and I just want to mention that we actually have a Facebook page now, Friends of Marywood Park. So if you would check that out, and we are having a community meeting. It's an interactive workshop on Monday, June 12th. So if you are able to attend, we are going to have different focus groups to work on different parts of our project. It's going to be, again, an ongoing 3 to 5 year project, so we'd be happy to have you come out.
What time and where exactly?
7 o'clock at the community center in the multipurpose room.
Bingo room.
You got my services if you need any help.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Bob?
Yeah, I just want to mention that if council approves it, that when we get all the parks done, all the work we're doing, all the effort that people are putting into the parks, the equipment, that we have a ribbon cutting or a ceremony one night or one Saturday morning for all the parks and open it up to the public and let them see. I mean, you should see Sutcliffe Park in the Meadows. It's beautiful what's going on down there. I mean, they're doing a nice job down there, and it's.
Thank you, Ray and Men.
Yep.
Awesome job.
It's very exciting.
Got anything, Colleen?
Is there, Mr. Sokolowski, is there a night or day that would work best so that we could honor the employees that worked on those parks at that ribbon cutting ceremony?
I really have to check, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
The park's actually in a condition where they can be open.
No, we'll open them up, but we want to do a ceremony. We're not going to hold the parks, the equipment up from opening. We just want to do some kind of ceremony. And I'll tell you,
Recognize all their hard work.
Yeah.
Sutcliffe Park might be a good idea to do it 4th of July, the night we do the fireworks.
The third.
You got all those people down there, and you have all those thousands of people down there. It would be nice to do that ceremony there, you
The
know?
other thing I'd ask is, at some point, we need to put the fences down, or they're gonna come down by.
I'm not saying stop that.
Whenever
Open
you're
them up.
ready, right?
Whenever you're ready, open it up.
Okay.
Open them up. But then we'll go back and do the ceremony. I mean, if everybody agrees, we'll do it 4th of July. I mean, the 3rd of July, the fireworks.
Right.
Before we do a ceremony down there.
I know there's been some kids at the Meadows that have already started to enjoy the equipment.
They're kids.
The equipment is been inspected by 2 certified people. There's really no issues with the use of the equipment. We just have taken the swings and made them inoperable for now. We're not gonna be able to keep them out of there.
Yeah.
Open them up.
But Sergeant Connor, thank you. I've gotten a lot of feedback that they've seen police presence. So some of the folks that had attended meetings that were concerned, they've seen a couple of drives down the dead end. So, thank you.
And also Sutcliffe Park, I see a lot of the guys sitting down there, and they up the patrols down there, and at Little League games and things like that. We appreciate it.
So just to
Anything, ma'am?
clarify, we're comfortable with, our Director of Public Services will make the call to open the parks when he deems them ready to be operable.
Yes.
And then regarding a ceremony for Sutcliffe Park, you would like us to consider July 3rd. And anything for Second Avenue Meadows?
I think included.
You were.
So we would be
Mention
just,
it, yeah.
we would be including it into one
Right,
larger
mention it.
conversation. Okay.
The same.
All right, so whatever you want.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Mary, you have anything?
No, good to
You
go.
can stand
You
on
don't want
that.
to
They'll have
say about your car show? How was it?
How wonderful the car show
show?
was.
Well, now you mention it. No, actually, would like to say thanks to the police, the fire police. Those guys were out there first thing in the morning, and they were there at the end of the day putting it all back together. Pretty good turnout. If you were there, we had rain in the morning, but by 11:30 it cleared up. So I think we cleared about 175 vehicles. I think the Fanatic really added to the day, and along with the mummers marching up and down the street. So I want to thank everybody that came out, and we look forward to next year's show.
I have some public comment, please. Anybody want public comment?
I have one question.
I will make this
To the microphone.
again.
I remember I was talking to you gentlemen about helping with the police fund, about these were the T-shirts I was telling you about. Now, I could get them at a very,
For us?
Mhm.
Open it up, Deb.
says Blue Lives Matter, okay, with the police badge, it's just the regular, okay, and they would be sold for 20. I have a friend who's a policeman in Texas who has a store, and he makes me my deputy constable badges, my jackets, and he's going to sell them to me for a good price. I could get 20 and donate most of the money to the Conshohocken Police Department fund, if that's okay with you gentlemen, for me to sell them. But I won't do it without your permission.
Why don't you, if it's up to council, why don't you come back on the night, or voting night, so you can show the residents at
With
home.
Deb.
Okay,
It'll be on television.
Oh, that's true, then it would be on TV.
Yeah.
It'll be on TV.
It'll be on
that
TV.
sounds great. And, yeah, because I could get them cheap, and like I said, it makes good money, and
Where would
I'll
you
do
sell
my
them?
best to help out in any way I can. Okay.
Tell them at the fireworks.
Talking about the fireworks.
Deb,
Fourth
where
and
would you sell them?
Box
Yeah,
Derby.
where would you sell them?
Pardon me?
Where? Where would you sell them?
I've been selling them everywhere. I've been selling like my bracelets. I've been to the TK Club. They bought a lot of
Okay,
police bracelets. The Blackville Tavern.
Soapbox Derby, fireworks.
And so I that's why I donated, was
Soapbox
able to
Derby.
donate 100 to Plymouth, 100 to Conshohocken.
Ask
from
your
that.
contact if they have a female cut.
And, most, won't, they won't refuse me, so, I mean, most of them will buy them. I mean, Bob's son from the golf, he did buy a shirt already from me.
Missed that question.
So, I mean, they'll go. I get them for a good price, so it's a
Okay.
cheap price, you know
But
what
you
I mean?
might want to set up something at the fireworks to sell.
Okay, sure, that's not a
Soapbox
problem.
Derby.
Yeah.
The Soapbox Derby too.
Soapbox Derby.
Yeah, because I could order them and get them in here real quick. Guy will give me free shipping. I don't have to pay for the shipping, and that's it. I'll just put them
And
on my credit
I
card.
don't know if you heard this question, and it may sound sort of silly, but, they have female cut T-shirts, so instead of it being boxy,
For men and women.
and that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Picky,
So,
picky,
I'll
picky.
just,
Okay.
get them in any size you want, from anywhere from small to 3X. They come in size.
Okay, great, thank you, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Any more public comment?
I was wondering, why is the Borough Council hearing zoning issues and not the zoning hearing board?
Mike?
So council's not hearing zoning issues,
Well-
council's reviewing them. The borough, as a matter of law, has a right to participate in any zoning cases that come before it on behalf of the community to represent the community's interest. Council has adopted a policy of reviewing pending applications to make a determination whether they want to take a position one way or the other before it goes to the zoning board.
Oh.
The applications will still go to the zoning hearing board, there'll still be a full-blown hearing, they'll have to give testimony, and the zoning board will ultimately decide whether to grant it or not.
Okay.
But
Because it
council's,
said consider.
Well,
It's
it's-
considering an application.
Right.
But you say reviewing, but.
they're considering whether they want to take a position on an application one way or the other.
I worked for the federal government for 25 years. I
My
understand
sympathies.
the many different layers that make up this huge tax.
Certainly.
That's good, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Well, with that, I say, meeting adjourned.
Good night.